Sound is rolling.
The people crazy enough to think they can change the world are the ones who do. And I guess that makes us maniacs over here. This is a podcast where we deep dive into the normal and hold conversations on experiences we wouldn't normally have on tape. If there's something different, yes, you can see me now in the light and in the flesh. I'm so excited to be back for our visual season. If you haven't checked out our audio episodes, this is the time now before you even get into this. Pause and first listen to our audio episodes. I know it's a lot, but I feel like that's the kind of context that you need. But yeah, we're back. We took a break, maybe about 2-3 months, but we're here now, and I really have exciting stuff coming up for you. I cannot wait. We're going to have so many conversations. I have exciting people, my friends, artists, musicians, filmmakers, so many exciting people, models. They're all going to come on here, share their experiences, and also share a bit of some stuff that they normally wouldn't share on tape like we do here. But today it's just me, because this is like our first visual episode, so I wanted to just update you guys on what I've been up to. But I also turned 25 on this big long break, so I thought it would be cool to talk about the 25 things that I've learned, especially now that I'm 25. And yeah, so that's been exciting. But what have I been up to? Honestly, I've been up to work mostly, adulting, the rat race. Yeah, I've been trying to make money, and that's going okay so far, I think. I moved. Yeah, I finally moved. I moved again. At this point, I've moved over and over again. But if you've been listening into the pod, I moved, and that's also been great. Getting used to my new place. At this point, I've just come back from a long week of work. I've been in Ginger for the past week working for Nyege, and that was like such an amazing experience, which is also like, I think for me it was like a little bounce of like, you're doing a really great job. And yeah, so I'm excited to see what other brands I work with next year. But also school has been, it's taxing, but what can you do? It is what it is. But I'm also excited to be back, because I honestly missed the podcast more than I thought I would. I miss talking to you guys and having guests on here and sharing just experiences. I think in some type of way this is my outlet. So today is going to feel like a therapy session with just me bubbling. But yeah, so maybe let's get into these 25 things that I have learned now that I'm 25. So yeah, my very first one is goodness comes back and karma is real. And I think a few days ago someone asked me if I believe in fate, and like I realized that I kind of do. I do believe that there is this big picture, and everything that I do kind of affects what happens or what's destined to happen. And so I do feel like being a good person is not easy, and like sometimes in the moment it feels like you're just being the bigger person, you're just being good, and you feel like in real time you're not being rewarded. But I feel like karma is real, and somehow all the goodness you give out will always come back to you. So that's definitely something I have learned the hard way. Next, I would say you're not that special. You're not the center of the universe. And like, I know it's like a mind shift, because growing up you think, because you're in your head, you're the main character of your life, you grow up feeling like, I'm really special. I'm the center of the universe, and everyone must, okay, not literally, but like bow to me. Things should go my way. Things need to go how I want them to go. But at the end of the day, we're like 9 billion people in the planet. And each of these 9 billion people thinks that they're the center of the universe. So it's kind of like, and I think this has become very practical in like situations where it's like, it teaches you how to be selfless. It teaches you how to care about things that are like outside of yourself. People that are not part of your family, people you're not related to. It's like, at the end of the day, you're really not the center of the universe. So as you're getting on that taxi or on that bike, it doesn't have to be good to this person who is maybe not like you. Maybe they're hawking something, or maybe they're doing something else. It's just like, at the end of the day, get out of yourself a bit and look at the world that you live in. You'll be amazed by just how much else is going on apart from yourself and your pove and your perspective and everything that you see. But yeah, again, disclaimer, this is strictly from my experiences that I've had in these 25 years of life. So I cannot tell you that this is like, by the book, but this is just like some of the real hard realities that I've had to learn about life. Next, I would say you don't need more stuff. You just need to be happier, and happiness comes from within. You don't need more stuff. You just need to be happier, and happiness comes from within. And so I feel like it's 2024. At this point, 2024 is coming to an end. We're in like a very capitalistic world, and the media that we consume is constantly pushing the idea that I need to buy more stuff. I need to get something else. I need another dress. I need another pair of shoes. But then it's like sometimes we forget that the happiness really is inside, and then we start to search for it in these materialistic things. And you think, if I buy more stuff, if I buy more shoes, I'll be happy. But then it's like, at the end of the day, if you're not really happy within, which is definitely deeper than that, it's related to like your unhealed trauma, things from your life that you haven't dealt with, figuring out what your passions in life are, what's your purpose. But so if you don't figure those things out, it doesn't matter how many things you buy or how many more pairs of Louboutins you get or whatever, you're not going to be happy, basically. And so next, I would say you have to carry the crown before you wear it. And I think this is like, I feel like we're in an era where everyone is like, oh my God, I'm a queen, I'm a king, And I feel like we want to come for the awards, right? Like the recognition, like you're a king, you're a queen, but what work are we doing to deserve that crown? So that's why I say you have to carry the crown before you place it on your head, in the sense that to be the king among people, you have to be the one that's going out of your way to serve people, or you have to be you have to put in the work to then be recognized with a crown, if that makes sense. But yeah, number 5 is, it's very cliche, but no one is coming to save you. And I think growing up, we watched so many fairy tales, myself inclusive. Like, I was such like a Disney diehard. Rapunzel, the Beauty and the Beast, and all these girls have a prince that's coming to save them. And so growing up, I just thought, I'm here in this bad world, and there's someone who's going to come and they're going to save me from this world and just like take care of me and love me and cater to all my needs. But then that's not the reality, is it? So yeah, and I think especially to like young women, I would say don't wait for anyone to come and save you. You save yourself, and when that person comes, they're just going to have to deal with like a healed version of you who can probably deal better with that person. Because also when someone comes and saves you, but you're not yet ready to be saved, that's like a whole other, so I feel like also there's no saving. Who said you needed to be saved? Like, as women, we can work hard, you can get your own job, chase your own bag. Yes, we do want men, but I feel like there's something better, like it's better to want than to need. But it's like, if this man he's not here, I'm gonna die. But it's like, you can exist without him. Can't you breathe without him? So yeah, I think my next one, which I guess it is about marriage, but I don't want to get married. I want to die married. And I think for me, we're in an influx of weddings. There's this meme that I love. It's like a meme that talks about how these gender wars that we have, right? Like every week there's a guy, like they're gender wars, right? The male species versus the female species. We're better, but every weekend you still see a wedding happening though, which is just like, of course it's a good thing. It's a sign that people are still falling in love and like, but then it also worries me because like with more people getting married much younger, it worries me how long these marriages are actually going to last. And so for me, as I look for, I wouldn't say I'm looking for a marriage partner, but I would say I'm looking for something like a life partner. And so if that does find me, I would rather have it until I die, as opposed to trying to chase it right now and getting it early, but then still not having it till I die. I don't know if that makes sense. And I know that there are people who say, sometimes happiness is not forever. But me, I want a forever. So, I don't know, make it make sense. The next one is inheritance is not tangible. And I guess this is coming from a country like Uganda, where the highest level of like crime that we have is like siblings fighting over land and things like that. I feel like inheritance is such a big deal in Africa, but then it's also misdirected in the sense that we think that inheritance is the physical things that your parents leave you, which is like the businesses, the land and the cattle and all that, the wealth and riches, which are a good thing. But then I think there's also the non-tangible things that our parents leave us with. I think in my sense, when I was thinking about this, I kind of digressed, and I realized that the best thing that my dad has given me is not what percentage shares of his business he's going to leave here. It's not land. It's the way that I think. It's my brain. It's the way that I can relate to people. It's my ability to be kind. It's those things that can't be touched that are probably going to get me to a place where I can actually attain that wealth. And so I think we need to sometimes focus on like not everything that we inherit from our parents is tangible. And like sometimes we can focus so much on what we see, but then we also need to focus on the stuff that we can't see, like the character traits or the work ethic and all that stuff. But next, I would say you're creating your eulogy as we speak. And I think death is something that I think about a lot. Even growing up, I had so many questions about death because I was just so curious about like, where do we go when we die? What happens when we die? But then I also think that we live life not realizing that with every day the choices that we make, this is what people will say about us when we are gone. Or it's like, or what will they say about Tina? Was she someone who cared for people? Was she? So there's a way we think that there's a time maybe when we are older and we're like about to retire. But I think every day with each tiny step, it's like that's a part of like your eulogy or what you're leaving behind here, or what we can call, I guess, like a legacy. So I also feel like, yeah, it's in those, I guess also it's in what you leave in people. It's like the footprint that you're going to leave. What will people think about you? Or if you're leaving content, like I'm leaving this podcast behind, it's like maybe 50, 60 years from now and I'm not here, what's someone who's sitting watching this podcast going to, what kind of value are they going to pick from it? So I think it also helps us to be very conscious of the decisions that we make every day. Like this is one whole big picture, and every, like, at least death is something we're all sure about. Like it's the end of our journey. We're on the journey to death. We're all going to die. So the next one, I would say, you don't need to live through everything to learn. Sometimes examples are enough. And I think it can be a bit contradicting because I also know the experiences that we talk about where it's like, you have to live through this, things like childbirth, or how people always say you can talk about how like painful it is to give birth, but you'll never know what it truly is until you've lived it. And yes, I agree with that, but then I also think there are situations where it's like, especially with like mistakes that we make with like romantic relationships or friendships, I feel like we can learn so much from experiences that people share, and then we don't need to make those mistakes again, especially now that we're like in an era of podcasts and like YouTube channels. I feel like we have so much access to information and people's lived experiences that it's kind of like sometimes you don't really need to live through something again. You can learn just from someone's experience. Like imagine you don't need to go through all that pain. So yeah. Next, I would say no situation is permanent, and I know this is cliche, and it always feels like, oh, you're just saying this because you're like in a bad place. It always feels like a consolation, but I also think it is true, because just like no situation is permanent, it's like the good situations, they come and they go, but so do the bad ones. Like we're never in the same state. We're continuously moving, and like if today is a bad day, great, tomorrow is going, there's a new day tomorrow, and maybe if you wake up with a new perspective, if you like, there's always a way around it. But at the end of the day, it's like you can't just feel like, oh no, my life is going so bad right now, why me, why am I the one? I think it's better to just focus on like what parts of this situation what power do I have to push this into a direction where I'm more satisfied or more fulfilled. So I think I would rather spend my time doing that than also worrying, because worrying doesn't really change much. So it's just like you're just worrying, but nothing is actually going to change. So yeah, number 11, you can't be confident if you have no idea who you are. And I think I learned this the hard way. Self-esteem is like it's such a big thing. A lot of people struggle with it, but I think also a big part of not being confident is not knowing who you are. And I think I talk about this a lot, but we have a very much like uniform society where it's like everyone is trying to be like everyone, and so you will hide the parts of you that stand out, yet those are the parts that could have made you unique or stand out. And so I feel like we very much like we're constantly encouraging people to look like everyone else, do things like everyone else. But then it's like you need to sit down with yourself and figure out who are you. If you like this, do you like this because your friends like it, or is it something that you actually enjoy doing it? Does it actually give you like pleasure? And so I think the more you know who you are, you become very now confident, because you know what you want, right? Because if I've figured out that I'm this kind of person who maybe I'm a go-getter, maybe my career gives me life, it gives me energy, it refreshes me, now I know what I want, and no one is actually going to come and tell me, oh no, you need to go to school and do this other course. But I know what I want. And so I feel like it's easier to be confident when you know who you are, when you've sat down with yourself and you figured out what do you like, what doesn't work out for you. So yeah, I think on the journey to confidence, somewhere there's like self-awareness is key, I think. Yeah. So the next one, the best skill you can learn is how to not give a fuck. Excuse my French. But yeah, no, this one is just like, I think growing up in Africa, we care too much about what people think, yeah? Because even just from when you're young as a child, even as you're being prepped, you're going out to just play with your friends, but it's like, oh no, don't go out in that shirt, don't go out in that dress, what is this, that what are the neighbors going to think of me, or what? So we grow up with that in our heads, and I think it suppresses so much of our potential. Like, even I could say just now, like the podcast, I've been sitting on this for like, even before we released the first audio episode, that was like 2 years of just sitting on it and just thinking like, but this is not something that's acceptable in my culture. How do I just sit there? We're not encouraged to share about our lives here. It's called like, you're oversharing. If something went wrong, why are you talking about it? Why are you bringing this bad light onto your family? But then I was just like, how are we going to get better if we don't talk about things? And so I think, yeah, being in Africa, you really need to stop giving a fuck. That's the only way you're going to dress the way you want to dress. That's the only way you're going to get that career that you actually want. That's the only way you're going to actually be happy. Because at the end of the day, if you try to do everything for everyone else, they'll be happy in their beds, but you're the one who's putting on a show, and then you have to go back into your bed and cry yourself to sleep, because this is not the life that you want, but this is the life that gives you the best image. And at the end of the day, it's like, are we having image for dinner? No, we're not. So yeah. I think the next one, if he's not sure, you shouldn't be as well. Yeah. And I feel like this I don't want, I know in Africa there's like there's this agenda that's pushed where women are like encouraged to go for men who like them way more than they like them. And I'm not advocating for that, because I feel like you should both like each other and want each other enough. But then I also feel like when it comes to things like intentionality and like, where are we going with this relationship, I've really learned the hard way. You don't have to do it. This is not advice. P.S. But I've learned the hard way that I'm not trying to be sure if someone is not sure. Like, if he's not sure, then I'm also not sure. If you're playing, I'm also playing. So until you're sure and you have like a specific direction, and at the end of the day, people want to think direction is not like, oh, you figured out everything. Oh, we're going to get married in this year. We're going to have kids in this year. No, but I need to know that we're not just playing around. Like, we're actually doing maybe something serious. Are we trying to head somewhere? We may not get there. That is life. But like, were we intentionally trying to get somewhere with a chance that we could have gotten there? But otherwise, I'll be playing till further notice. Hopefully my boyfriend doesn't see this. But yeah, then the next one, the fall is epic when you find love. And I like that this is it's a good note, because I'm not a man hater. But I think, yeah, it is. And how do I even explain it? I think I was having a conversation where we have these experiences where we think we're in love, and maybe we are in love at that age or at that stage, like where we're at in life. We really believe that that's love. But then I feel like I've been now going through experiences where you start to experience love for the first time, and then you get like mind blown, because you're like, so what was that thing that I thought was love? Was that like a very small pinch of this iceberg, or was that? So I feel like I guess it's epic in the sense that you will know when it happens. Like, you will feel it, and it won't be because there are 1,000 roses on your doorstep, or it might not be in a very tangible way, but it's again going to be in a very non-tangible way, in the way that this person cares for you, or in the way that they're patient with you. Some of us are, we're very impatient, but in the way that they can like stand some of those things about yourself that even you can't stand. So yeah, I think I will still believe in love, whether it whether it keeps fucking me up and fucking me over or not. So yeah. So next one. It's not always your feelings that are hurt. A lot of times it's your ego. And I think this one, I'm very culprit. And I think when I was younger, I was always just like, you've hurt my feelings but a lot of times I think pride is like something that we are so attached to as human beings. And then sometimes it's like someone does something and you want to think about it and it's like, but am I actually hurt because this person did this thing and I'm feeling this type of way? Or am I more perturbed by my ego? Or what it's going to look like? Oh, this person turned down Tina? Oh my God. And when it comes to rejection, I know for us as women, it's like, we don't want to deal with it. We don't even want to accept it. But like, I feel like a lot of times as women, we're emotional, but not all the time it's your feelings that are hurt. Sometimes it's actually just your ego, and you need to just take like a step back, be very self-aware, and realize that you're just being like, it's just your ego that's being hurt in that moment. Next one, I would say, you're going to fail hard. You'll take it as your achievement. And I think this is all the stories, I feel like all the success stories that we've had, there's been so many no's, like so many like so much failing. It takes so many no's to get to that yes. And I feel like that's a part of the story that we fail to give glory to, because it's like every time you're told no, the zeal to become better grows. Every time you're told no, you're like, so what can I adjust? What can I switch up to make sure that I get that yes? And so in a way, it's like failing is an achievement, because that's the only way that you can work hard to get better. Imagine you were born and everything, you were just amazing, like great. You'd be like, I have no room for improvement. Like, why do I even have to work hard? I'm just this great, amazing person. So I think sometimes we have to recognize the achievements that are in failing, in the sense that, like I said, you're not the center of the universe, you're not special. And if everyone else has gotten no's and failed to get there, who do you think you are to just come and make it, in 24 hours, you're a one-night success. Yeah, so I think that's key. The next one, trust your gut instincts. And I think this one is really for the ladies. I feel like the gut is such a powerful organ, and probably even more powerful than the brain. And the brain is my favorite organ. But I feel like a lot of situations that I've had, my gut said no, and I just went against my gut. And there's nothing that hurts like when you've been forewarned by your gut and then you still go and then get the same shege. And then you're just like seated there remembering like, oh my God, my body told me no. And I feel like sometimes it's not even always the gut, but as women, I think our bodies have, I don't want to think like our bodies have feelings. They're not superpowers, but like you'll feel some type of way. You're not supposed to be at that man's place, but now you have stomachache. You want to throw up. Like your body is actually telling you like you're not supposed to be here. You shouldn't be here. And so I think trust your gut instincts. Next, I would say listen 90%, talk 10%. And I know this can be hard to take in for people who love talking, myself inclusive. Like I really, really like to talk, but it's like with talking, it's like an output, right? You're putting out information. You're not really taking much in, and I feel like surviving life is very much based on our ability to learn and keep relearning. And so if you're talking all the time, when is the input? When is it? So I think we need to practice it. I know it's a skill that's not easy. You have to be very like aware and like be like, oh my God, I'm actually not listening, or I'm just listening to speak, which is also so I think that's key. Something else, your parents are getting old too. And I think that's a reality that's hit me recently, because I think for me growing up, my dad he was like Superman. Like there's nothing my dad couldn't do, He just felt like he could solve every problem that I have. But I think being an adult has also come with accepting the fact that they are human beings, my parents. They make mistakes as well, some more shitty than others. Hi, Dad. But like, yeah, it's like the reality of they're not these. They're also figuring out life just like you, but then also they're getting old in the sense that some of these things are going to be reversed. You know, they've been taking care of you your whole life, and now you get into a situation where like, you know, you're the expert, or you're the one who's taking care of your parents. So I think it's a very humbling, I think it's a very humbling thing, because I think for me it just reminds me how much I'm gonna get to a time as well where I don't have this much energy and I don't have this much youth and, you know, vigor. And it's like, I think it's at that time that's when I now think like, oh, it's like, what value have I put into my kids, or what energy have I put out there for my kids to want to still be a part of my life and take care of me, and, you know. And yeah, so I see that I know there are children who have like very rough relationships with their parents, in the sense that they don't even want to know, are they sick or what. So I think it's like a cycle. It happens to our parents, it will happen to us, it will happen to our kids, but it's also a reality. And I think when you figure it out and then you start treating your parents like actual humans, like, yeah, you will survive a lot. So next, life could be worse. Like, it could actually be worse. And I think I don't want to encourage people to be binging a lot of sad content, but for me, something that makes me feel better about my life is watching stories of people whose lives are way shittier than mine. Like, life could be worse, I tell you, because sometimes I feel so bad about my life, but then I'll see like a story of someone whose life is way worse than maybe this. They don't even have to be like a street child or what, but they've gone through experiences that I could never, you know, handle. Which is again to say, I guess the world only gives you battles that you can fight. So I think life could be worse, and even in the worst of those moments when you feel like giving up, especially if you're like suicidal than I am, I think for me what keeps me sane is the fact that I'm not the one having it like the worst. There's someone out there who's having a worse day than me, and I know that's like a very shitty way of looking at it, but it helps me come out of it a bit. So yeah. So next one, as we're beginning to wrap up, things don't always turn out how you want them to, and that is usually a good thing. And I think this is just a bit like self-explanatory, in the sense that growing up, there are so many things that I've wished for that I know if God had given them to me, like, I'm just like, no. Because I think as you're younger, you're also, your level of discernment is, you don't know what you want, and sometimes we want things that are not good for us. And so I think it's a good thing that not everything we want comes our way. Yeah. So everything in life is a choice, or some of your choices at least. And I know a lot of people like to say like, oh, some of the things just happen to you. And I know things can happen to us, like things we have no control over. But I'm also someone that really believes like we have such a large part to play in how our lives turn out, whether we want to take accountability for it or not. Because I feel like with every choice that you make, whether it's a choice that I made to come here and shoot today, whether it's a choice that I make, like, in every, it's like a puzzle, and it's like every thread in that puzzle or something, it's like all contributing to this bigger picture. And so I feel like either way, the choices that we make, we need to take them like life or death situations, because they are. And I think in the past there are situations that the decisions I've made where I thought, oh, this is a very small decision, and a few years later it's just like biting me in the ass, in the sense that, you know, this is a decision that changed the whole trajectory of my life. So I think we need to, take more time on decisions, think things through, and like, because life is really a sum of these choices that we make. The next one, the way people treat you usually has nothing to do with you. And I think being a firstborn girl who grew up thinking that everything is, you know, I'm the cause of everything. And it can be very easy to think that whether your parents are having a disagreement, it's your fault. You kind of take responsibility for everyone or people's feelings. And I think sometimes you need to realize that people are dealing with their own stuff and heal trauma so much. And sometimes when someone is rude to you, it's not because they hate you. Sometimes it's because they're projecting. Sometimes they're bleeding on you even though you didn't hurt them. So I think we have to be very aware of that, because sometimes you can get so into your head, like, what can I do? I want to make this person like me, being a people pleaser like myself, and you're going through all kinds of hoops but nothing is happening because the problem is not with you. This person actually has internal issues that they need to deal with. So I think it makes life a bit easier when you live through life being very aware of that. Next, I would say life is shorter than you currently think. Yeah, and I know we say this a lot, like life is short. Every time someone dies, it's like life is short, live your life. But I think sometimes we actually forget how short life is. I think because we live through days and you see the 24 hours go by and you're just like, oh, it's another day, another day. But like a day can make such a huge difference. You know, imagine you are told you only have one day left to live. So I think life is way shorter than we think. So we need to be much more careful about what we spend our time doing, the people that we give our time. What am I spending my time doing? Or if we are friends, what kind of value are you adding to me? Are you people who are going to get me my next deal? Which doesn't mean we have to always be opportunistic or whatever. But yes, life is very short in the sense that let's utilize the time that we have here, like because we don't know how much we have left. But also, even if we had 5 years left, 5 years is such a short time. And I think the older that I get, it's like time gets shorter. So it's like a month is like a breath now. And so it's like life is so short. So I think if you're doing that job that you don't like, you want to leave, but you're just like, you know what, I still have so much time. This is your reminder that you actually don't have time. And I think the earlier that you start to make a plan on what your next move is going to be, the better for you, because the happier you are, that's like high quality life as opposed to all these unhappy years, which I would probably call like low quality life. So yeah, second last one, be the light that you want to see in the world. And I know this one is really hard, especially in the world that we live in. Like sometimes you're not dealt the best circumstances, and so it's like, why do I have to be nice to these people who have been so, I've gone through all this shit and no one cared about me, no one cared when it was me. Why do I have to be so good? But I think there's something about energy, that in the sense that I feel like the energy that you give out is the same energy that the world pushes to you. And I think I've seen it happen for me, just in the sense that you don't lose anything by giving out just good energy, whether it's someone you've just met for a short time, whether it's someone that you're going to work with for a while. It's like at the end of the day, just be that light, be that goodness. And whether people retaliate, whatever they do with that energy is none of your business. But for you, you've kind of done your part, in the sense that you're not the one who's bringing bad energy. You're not the one you're just like, be a good person to live with. And I think 90 times out of 100 you will have a better life in return. I feel like people are very good at reciprocating. People will give you back what you give them. So yeah. And the very last one, it's so weird that it comes from the Bible and I don't even believe in God, but yeah, so to whom much is given, much is required. And I think this is something I've been thinking about very deeply as it relates to my purpose. And I think sometimes you feel like, anyway, in the sense that God, or this higher power, or the universe, or whatever you believe in the sense that you're only sent as much as you can handle. Or maybe you can't be asked to do something that you don't have the resource or capability to handle. And so I've been looking at it in that way, in the sense that, if I'm figuring out what my purpose is, and I figured out that my purpose is, I'm trying to maybe help people, I'm trying to, even if I'm not helping people, but I'm trying to create a platform where people can find some sort of relatability. Because in some sort of way, it's like, if I'm going through a bad day and I can watch something that can help me feel just a bit, like a bit less raged about the world, I'm like, that's a very small, it's a very small change, but I've changed someone's world out there. And so when I looked at it like that, but then I realized that that's a very big purpose. It's a very big purpose. And for that to happen, the universe can't send that my way without giving me enough capability, or again, resource, or whatever it is, to handle that purpose that I've been given. So I think for me, it has been manifested in the sense that you find things working out, or you make a way where there's no way, if that makes sense. But I feel like if you're meant to do something, you have everything that you need to do it. You maybe just haven't figured it out. Sometimes it's opportunities, it's in people that you know. So it's not always going to be straightforward, like, oh, I said your purpose is to do this, and let me just wake you up and give you your camera, and oh, here is your lights and your... So no, it's not going to be easy like that. But then also in the sense of, it's abundance, like I have everything that I need to do that which I'm purposed to do. I just need to find it. And yeah, so I feel like that's actually a very nice place for us to seal this conversation on, because this is a season where I feel like you see more and more of me. Maybe the audio was a bit controlled in the sense that you couldn't see us and really like engage in the conversations that we were having, but I'm very excited to have a couple of guests on. Like I said, we're gonna have so many people, not even just like artists or what, but just regular people who have stories to tell, because I believe that everyone is extraordinary. We just don't know their story yet. So go on and follow us on socials. We are on Tape the Podcast. Also, you can now find us on YouTube. Please subscribe. Again, only subscribe if this is content that you feel will bring you value. This is content that you're going to engage with. Also, we're still on audio. I don't want to forget about the audio, guys. So we're still available on Spotify. We're available on Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts. But so also let us know in the comments. Let me know what are some of the things that you've learned in this time that you've been on Earth. I've only been here 25 years, but you can let me know what the biggest lesson that you've learned is, or let me know what conversations you want us to have on here, because we're here to talk about everything, like we said, things people wouldn't normally say on tape. So with that said, love and light. Till next time.